In November 2022, a man named Jake Moffatt lost his grandmother. He needed to fly from Vancouver to Toronto for the funeral, and like most people in that situation, he went to the airline's website first, half numb, looking for the simplest path through the logistics of grief. Air Canada, like nearly every large carrier, had a support chatbot waiting on the page, a small glowing window in the corner, promising answers. So he opened it and asked the obvious question: were there special fares for someone traveling because of a death in the family? The chatbot answered with confidence. Yes, it told him Air Canada offered reduced bereavement rates. And here was the helpful part. The part that would eventually matter more than anything. It said he could book his flight at the regular price right now, then apply for the bereavement discount afterward, within 90 days, and get the difference refunded. Clear instructions. A specific window of time. The reassuring tone of a system that knew the rules. Moffatt did exactly what it said. He booked the flights and flew to bury his grandmother. When he came home, he filed the refund claim, just as the chatbot had instructed. He even had the receipts, over $800 in fares he expected to be partly returned. And Air Canada said no, because the policy the chatbot described did not exist. The airline did have a bereavement program, but its actual rules were the opposite of what the bot had promised. You could not claim the discount after the fact. The reduction had to be arranged before you flew. The 90-day refund window the machine invented was not a misquote of a real rule. It was simply not real. Here's where it gets strange. The correct policy was sitting on Air Canada's own website the entire time, on a separate page, a click away, written by humans, accurate. The chatbot had even linked to that page in its reply. So the airline's position became almost philosophical. Their own automated agent had told a grieving customer one thing, while another corner of the same website said the opposite. And Air Canada argued he should have known to trust the page over the chatbot, to trust the company over the company. Moffatt did not let it go. He took Air Canada to the British Columbia Civil Resolution Tribunal, a small claims body built for exactly these low-stakes, high-frustration disputes. No marble courthouse. No army of attorneys. Just a man with screenshots, an airline with a legal department, and a question that nobody had ever really been forced to answer in a courtroom. When a company's AI lies to you, who is responsible for the lie? Air Canada's defense is the part that should stop you cold, because it reveals how a large institution actually thinks about the machines it deploys. The airline argued, and this is documented in the tribunal's decision, that the chatbot was a separate legal entity, a distinct juristic person responsible for its own actions. In their framing, the bot was not really Air Canada speaking. It was a thing on the website, and the customer dealt with it at his own risk. The company that built it, trained it, and placed it on their homepage tried to disown its words the moment those words became inconvenient. Think about what that argument is actually attempting. It is an attempt to capture every upside of automation while offloading the downside onto the customer. The chatbot saves you the cost of human agents. It works around the clock. It scales to millions of conversations. But the instant it makes a promise the company doesn't want to keep, it is suddenly a stranger, an autonomous entity nobody can be blamed for. Heads, the corporation wins. Tails, the algorithm did it. The tribunal member, Christopher Rivers, was not persuaded. In February 2024, he issued a ruling that read, in places, like it could barely believe the argument it was rejecting. He wrote that it should be obvious Air Canada is responsible for all the information on its website, whether that information comes from a static page or a chatbot. He found there was no meaningful difference. The chatbot was not a separate person. It was a part of the company, and the company was accountable for what it said. Air Canada was ordered to pay. The sum was small, around $650 in damages, plus fees, pocket change for an international airline. But the number was never the point. The point was the principle the tribunal had just nailed to the wall, in writing, for everyone else to read. A company cannot deploy an AI agent to speak on its behalf and then disclaim what that agent says. If the machine makes a promise, the business keeps it. The hallucination is not the customer's problem. It is the company's liability. And the timing of this could not have been sharper. Through 2023 and into 2024, every company on Earth was racing to bolt generative AI onto their customer service. Chatbots, virtual agents, automated support, all of it sold as a way to cut headcount and handle volume. Almost none of them were asking the question Jake Moffatt's grandmother's funeral had accidentally forced into a courtroom. What happens when the thing we deployed to save money confidently makes something up? Who eats the cost of a sentence that was never true? Because a language model does not know when it is lying. That is the uncomfortable core of all of this. It is not retrieving a fact and occasionally getting it wrong. It is generating the most plausible sounding next words, and a fabricated bereavement policy is exactly as fluent, exactly as confident, exactly as authoritative sounding as a real one. The machine has no internal signal that separates the true answer from the invented one. To the system and to the grieving customer reading it, they look identical. Here is the part the press releases skip. After the ruling made headlines around the world, Air Canada quietly took the chatbot down. The tool they had deployed to handle customers at scale was retired the moment it cost them in court. And that single quiet act tells you everything about the real economics underneath. The bot was only worth keeping while its mistakes were free, while the customer absorbed them. Make the company own its agent's words, and suddenly the math of automation looks very different. This is the story they don't tell you when they sell you the future. The pitch is that AI removes the messy, expensive human from the loop. But the human in the loop was never just a cost. The human was the accountability. The person who could be trained, corrected, supervised, and held responsible when they got it wrong. Strip that out, point a probabilistic text generator at your most vulnerable customers, and you have not removed the risk. You have only hidden where it lives. Moffatt's case was $650. But scale it. Imagine that chatbot multiplied across millions of conversations, across thousands of companies, each one confidently inventing policies, prices, refunds, and rights that don't exist. Every one of those statements is now a binding promise someone may have to honor. The liability didn't disappear when the human did. It went quiet. It went distributed. It went invisible, right up until the moment someone keeps the screenshots. A grieving man asked a simple question and was given a confident, comforting, completely false answer. He kept the receipts. And in doing so, he forced a court to say out loud what every company hoped to leave unsaid, that you own your machine's words, that confidence is not the same as truth, and that the cost of an AI's hallucination does not vanish just because no human typed it. It lands on someone. The only question the rest of us are still answering is who. This is After the Cutoff.